for all those inspiring entrepreneurs, the best advice I'm going to say is do it. Just do it. Stop thinking about it. Stop dreaming it. Do it. Take the first step, because nothing gets your plan into action than actually taking that first step. And when you do that, one of the things that I realized was super impactful to me is find that tribe, find that group of other people, other entrepreneurs, other veterans who are going to help you through that process. And you'll be amazed how many organizations are out there, or even individual veterans, who will coach you along the way.
Welcome to the 7 Eagle Group podcast, your home for inspiring stories, valuable tips, and great advice from hard-charging veterans so you can lead a more rewarding and lucrative post-military career.
Hey everybody, this is Dustin with 7 Eagle Group, and today I'm going to be talking with John Kerkhoff. He's the CEO of FRAGO22. So, could you tell us a little bit about your experience in the military? Like, what branch were you in? What was your MOS?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me on here. But so I did 20 years in the Army. Well, technically, I did 17 years in the Army. I did 3 years in the Air Force. I was one of those weird kids who started in the Air Force and switched branches, and everyone looking at me like, what kind of guy does that? So for the main bulk of my career, I was a 19 Delta Cav Scout for the Army. Definitely wanted to do something, during the height of the war, wanted to get in there. I was young, just full of energy, full of charisma, I guess you could say, and just wanted to go out there and do some fun stuff. So did that. Definitely I think it was a good choice. I did that. My hats off to the Air Force. I enjoyed my 3 years in the Air Force, but I had a job that was just very slow, I guess you could say, right? So it was just a slow job. Promotions were really slow. Advancement was really slow. Growth was really slow. And when you're young and you have ambitions and dreams, you wanted something else. So definitely that's where it kind of took me over to the Army. For those who were in during that time, know that blue to green program. Definitely a part of that. But it was fun. It was unique because when I switched branches, I did everything all over again. Went through a basic training again. Those in the Army know what OSA is. I had to do OSA all over again. And it was, really tested me, really tried me. But I think that's kind of what really set things up for good for me, kind of helped me develop and learn and figure out who I really was and the things I wanted to do in my life, right? And those goals and dreams I had and how to work hard because kind of going through high school, I was just that average kid, I skirted by, got just a good enough grades to get by, and I needed something more. So definitely that's kind of where it took me, and it was fun.
Yeah, that's all great to hear.
Hey guys, it's Jordy. A lot of you leave comments asking for help. I'm going to tell you the best way to get a hold of me. Shoot me a text message right now. 413-337-3638. That's 413-337-3638. I'll get back to you with whatever you need. Let's get back to the video.
So you mentioned that you were learning a lot from your time in. What were some major lessons that you did learn? I guess like pick one from the Air Force and one from the Army that kind of stuck with you your entire length of service there.
Yes. Yeah. So from the Air Force, right, I definitely learned about hard work, like very precise work, being very detailed with your work. So that was one of the benefits to the job I had in the Air Force. I was a metal worker for the Air Force. And so things were very precise. You had to be very, we're down to the hundredth of a meter in some of our measurements and stuff like that. So very precise, very handcrafted, pride in your work kind of deal. And then shifting over to the Army, right? It was about thinking bigger, and it was about getting out there and realizing that the greater impact you have. So, being a combat arms guy, everything's on the line. I can mess up, but my mess up may actually impact everyone else versus just my mess up, somebody catches it and, it's a me problem, right? So when you're in a big group, a big team, a combat operation, your failure to pay attention to what's going on actually has a domino effect of everything else that could hurt. So definitely learned a lot of hard work, valuable work, and then being proud of the work you do and what you're doing, the decisions you're making, and just being able to turn around and say, hey, this is what I did, this is why I did it. And, not having any regrets for the decision you made, knowing that you made the decision for the best interest of the group, the bigger organization, than just I did it for me and myself.
That's good to hear. I have a similar experience. I spent 16 years in the Marine Corps, so I learned a lot about the work that you're doing has to be phenomenal and impactful when you're dealing with the tasks that are given to you. So, how about your any lessons from the army?
What was that?
Any lessons from the army that you learned?
Oh yeah, so a lot of the army lessons were kind of just that team dynamic lessons, those, really I can't be relying on the group, relying on those around me, both up and down. I know sometimes in the military we get really hung up on rank and, oh, I'm in charge, I'm senior, and this and that. When in reality, right, it's an all-encompassing thing, and it's you have to rely on everyone above you just as much you have to rely on everyone below you and to your left and right. Whether they're the same MOS, different MOSs, different jobs, different mission sets, you have to understand that we're all working together towards a bigger objective, and that we all have our part to play. And yes, they may overlap, but at the same time, that's what makes us stronger is that overlap. And so for one of the best ways to drive at home was actually in an airborne unit, because we have this thing called LGOPs, little groups of paratroopers. And so just the reality of it, what we do in the military, and I know the Marines is the same way, is the lowest level individual knows what's going on. So no matter what happens on the battlefield, you're just going to converge with other people who are just like you, and you all know the mission. You're all just going to go forward. Whether a commander's there, whether a sergeant's there, doesn't matter. And the worst thing that could happen is a bunch of privates get together and they're on their own. And because all they know is go that way and shoot anything that doesn't look like you. So in the airborne world, we call that the little groups of paratroopers.
Yeah, and is what you learned from your time in the military, is that the reason why you founded Frago22?
Yes, actually, a lot of what I did in the military, those bigger lessons outside of the MOS is kind of was the shaping for Frago22. So kind of like anyone else who serves in the military, no matter how much time you serve, you're gonna leave the military. You're gonna depart and kind of reassociate back into the regular world, the civilian world, just the working world, whatever you want to call it. And I was one of those. I had a job as I retired out of the army, and it was with a communications company, and doing great things. But I realized there was something amiss, and I also realized that there wasn't a smooth transition. So kind of in the early stages, I had a lot of my old soldiers calling me up, "Hey, for Sergeant, hey, I'm transitioning out now. What do you recommend? How do I do this? What do I need to think about?" Every branch has that transition office. In the Army, we call it TAP, and it's good for what it's designed to do, but it's not great because, like the military, they like to do this one size fits all approach to everything. And when it comes to especially transition, you can't one size fits all approach it. Everyone's unique. Everyone has a different skill set. Everyone has a different lifestyle, different story, different journey. There's just so much complexity around it. The TAP office dumps all that information on you, and it's hard to kind of filter through it. So kind of the early stages of Frago was helping those transitioning service members, with just that coaching and mentoring. It was a free service. It's still a free service. Coaching, mentor, transitioning service members to say, hey, think about this, look at this, right? So just really someone to kind of bounce ideas from people who've been there, other great organizations like your Veteratis out there that do, similar stuff. Seven Eagle, you guys do a lot of the same things. And so we're just another avenue, just another resource out there for them for that. But then what I started to realize, and I experienced it myself, was a lot of these veterans come out of the military service, they get that first job, perfect. They leave that first job within the first year, right? And I know ACP, American Corporate Partners, the statistic there shows about 85% in that first year. And a lot of the reasons you see that isn't because necessarily these companies are bad, or that the service member was bad, or they shot in the dark and picked something real quick just to get going. You actually tend to see what happens is there's that disconnect between going back into the workforce and the workforce understanding how the veteran thinks and how to utilize those experiences from the veteran, right? So even a lot of your bigger organizations that have figured it out, your John Deere's, your Home Depot's, your Lowe's, they still struggle a little bit with this, but the rest of the working world, they don't know how to do it yet. So what I wanted to really do is, when I stood up Frago on this end, was to say, hey, we're going to help those corporations, those businesses, those organizations retain that talent. We want them to, they worked hard, they got this veteran talent in, but now we don't want them to lose it. We want them to have a fulfilling employee just as much as we want the veteran to feel fulfilled in that role, whatever role they go into with that organization. So we started setting up our leadership courses and our leadership seminars to help these organizations keep that veteran talent, but to also show them how to grow that veteran talent, how to grow their own talent. And so the byproduct is it wasn't just about helping the veteran now, we're helping the organization build their entire leadership program so that even their employees they have who have never served can benefit from that growth, that mentorship, that coaching, and also gain those lessons from those who have served, those veterans, and get their experience of what it means to actually lead and succeed and think bigger than just my 9 to 5 and I come and do my work and go home. So it's all about growth and development for everyone holistically, not just the veteran and not just the organization.
That's great work. Because you had probably a similar experience yourself as you're transitioning out, and you wanted to be that link between the service members and the companies. Um, have you had any success stories with what you've been doing?
Yeah, so I mean, very excited as we've been getting going. We're actually still a very young company, but um, we've had a few of my old soldiers who have joined a lot of these workforces, and they are now that I guess you want to call them that beacon, right? So they've come in and they're helping these organizations establish those veteran programs. Two of my buddies, good buddies of mine, they went into this communications company. They've actually stood up their entire veteran onboarding process to include getting them SkillBridge certified. So now this company is certified to be part of the SkillBridge program so they can take on those transitioning service members, give them that internship role, and then that leads them to those jobs. And at base level, they're actually growing so quickly with it that they're at least walking out with a certification in hand, whether it be like a Bixby cable puller certification, a C++ certification, right? So they're walking away with something, even if it's not a job, something that's going to make them more valuable and just well-rounded to enter that next phase of their life. So definitely super excited to see those happening. A few other mentorship programs we have going on in the background, just really exciting. We're working with a few veterans out of Fort Belvoir right now, Fort Bragg, well now Fort Liberty, and Fort Drum. We're getting in part of the TAP office with Fort Drum. We've gotten some jobs posted out there that have led to fulfilling jobs, and people have made it past that year mark. So it's super exciting. It's wonderful to see that, when these veterans are like, hey, I have found my new home. I found my new tribe, or, whatever the case. Yeah, there's those one-offs that they may end up in the wrong spot, but we can usually keep them within an organization and maybe just move them to where their family needs are. So definitely we're getting there, we're building it, and it's exciting to see.
Yeah, no, that's great. Been talking with you a few times. I know we met a couple of weeks ago on LinkedIn here, but it's been great to connect with you and learn about what you're doing and the impact that you're making. Would you give any advice, or do you have any advice for potential entrepreneurs or anyone that would want to utilize your services, like
Yeah,
maybe they can
absolutely.
start or
Absolutely. So for all those inspiring entrepreneurs, the best advice I'm going to say is do it. Just do it. Stop thinking about it, stop dreaming it, do it. Take the first step. Because nothing gets your plan into action than actually taking that first step. And when you do that, one of the things I realized was super impactful to me is find that tribe, find that group of other people, other entrepreneurs, other veterans who are going to help you through that process. And you'll be amazed how many organizations are out there, or even individual veterans who will coach you along the way, who will just give you advice. They'll be that non-biased ear to say, hey, no, you're being an idiot. You got to think about it this way. And they're not going to say your idea is great or stupid. They're just going to say, listen, if you're serious about this, you better start doing these things or thinking about these things. So definitely have that tribe, take the leap and go for it, because it's only going to stay a dream if you don't go for it. And then for those organizations, that I like to work with, hey, the same thing applies. Go for it. Why are you hesitant to build your own leadership program? Why are you wasting money outsourcing leadership that may or may not stay when you can grow them internally and build them to what you need for your organization to hyper scale your organization?
That's all great stuff there. Do you have any final thoughts? Anything that you would like to express to our audience?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, again, thank you for having me. Thank you to Seven Eagle Group for everything you guys are doing for the veteran community. Definitely appreciative for everyone out there. Reach out to these organizations, talk to them, open those conversations, get on LinkedIn, your social media, and just open the conversation. Start talking to people. You're going to realize how many great resources are out there, how many people are excited to help you, and just the wealth of knowledge you can gain from just starting a conversation. And networking is key. It is.
Yep, I definitely agree with that networking piece there. I started off with 50 LinkedIn followers, I guess, here, and I built it up to a couple hundred, and I keep going. And now I've got folks reaching out to me on LinkedIn and wanting to chat with us and kind of share their ideas and their company missions and all that. So it's been great. So thank you
Absolutely.
everybody for attending or listening to our podcast here, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks, everyone.